I've escaped to my office while my son does his schoolwork. So I thought I would take this time to tell you about my experience this week that I had from a training standpoint. I'm not famous, don't claim to be famous. I'm just a girl that is lucky enough to ride horses and give lessons and train and support myself. So, very fortunate in that aspect. But my husband has been out of town a lot the last couple of all year. So, he took a job for a PRCA stock contractor as helping with promotions and things such as that, plus running his own rodeo company and doing all the things that go along with that. So he's out of town a good bit, so much so that he's even missing our son's birthday this Saturday. But very supportive of that. So, but I had some new horses in, some horses he hasn't seen me ride in person. He's seen video, but he hasn't seen me ride these horses in person. So we plan to head over to the covered pen that's next to us and get out of the dust and out of the heat and ride some horses. So I think we took 5, 3 for me and 2 kind of for my son to ride. And I asked him to give me his opinion. And one thing about myself and my husband is if you ask us for our opinion, good, bad, you will get it. Honesty is what you get from our opinion. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He's not going to sugarcoat it either. So he watched me ride a couple, and I was getting a little frustrated with some small things that weren't going the way I thought they should go. No, he's not a barrel racer, doesn't run barrels, never ran barrels, doesn't want to run barrels, doesn't claim to be a barrel racer, but he knows me, he knows how I ride. For the 11 years we've been married now, he knows how I think, he knows what type of horse I like to ride, and the things that I can do with them. So that's the part that I really wanted his advice on. So he rode a couple for me. I got off, he got on, and told me some things, and a couple of them hurt my feelings a little bit, but I did ask. One in particular, he asked me, he said, have you forgotten how to train? Excuse me? No? That's what I do for a living, remember? He said, no. He said, you're wanting to ride everything like it's finished and seasoned. He said, they're not. And he said, you need to get back in trainer mode. Which makes sense because all year I've been helping my son with his horses. He finished up his last Little Wrangler year in National Little Britches and went to the finals. Very successful finals again for the 2nd year in a row. So I've been wrapped up with his rodeos and his new things, and he's starting to breakaway rope and he's starting to goat tie, and I have lessons every afternoon and getting my son to his lessons and being a mom and a teacher. All these things that I've gotten caught up in, I kind of needed a reminder myself that I needed a lesson day for me. That's what my husband was for. So he made me throw my sucker in the dirt, and I picked it up, and we kept going, and we have a really nice 3-year-old that we're proud of, that we started from the ground up. And he said about one of the mares I was on, he said, our 3-year-old is farther along than this mare, and this mare's older than 3. But what he meant by that was we know where our 3-year-old came from and how she got to where she is now. And we don't know history on some of these horses. A lot of these horses I don't know the history on. I can figure it out pretty quick. But I had been wanting to go ride with him for a couple weeks because I felt I needed a reminder. And he reminded me. And my point to all this is don't be afraid to ask for help. We all get caught up in what we're doing that we forget to ask for help. to me, we as barrel racers, if you're happy going in the pen and not falling off and going around 3 barrels in the correct order and leaving them all standing, you're not running barrels to the best of your ability. That's only one piece of this 100-piece puzzle that you have to put together. For an example, my son is starting to breakaway rope and goat tie. Yeah, I know how to do those things, but I don't know how to teach him to do them correctly when something goes wrong. He has a trainer. I'm not ashamed to admit he goes and takes lessons. I'm his mom. I know how he thinks. I coach him at home. He ties his goat at home. He ropes his dummy at home. But he needs someone there to tell him what went wrong. And I don't know those things in details. Some people, most barrel racers aren't trainers. Most will admit that. Some won't. It's not a bad thing to ask for help or an opinion or advice. But make sure you're doing it from someone that's reputable. Not the one that maybe always wins the barrel race or with a rodeo or anything like that. I'm 38 years old. I've made just about every amateur rodeo association finals in the Southeast. I've won the year end of 2 different associations. I have won barrel races. I have won WPRA sanctioned rodeos. I have placed at many more. And when I say amateur, I mean anything not WPRA or IPRA, in my opinion. Everything else is amateur rodeo. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Be prepared to have your feelings hurt, your pride, whatever it may be. Be prepared to be hurt a little bit by the advice, because we all think highly of our horses that we're on. We all think highly of ourselves. That's great. That's not a problem. That's a really good thing to have. But when you ask this advice, someone else is going to see it a little bit different than you do. Like I said, if you put that one piece of the puzzle and don't fall off and leave all the barrels standing, then were you really doing the best of your ability? Is that the best you've got? Is that the best your horse can do? Or do you need someone that can push you harder to do your best, that knows you can do better? Find that person that pushes you to do better, that encourages you. Yes, this is a cutthroat industry. You're going to get your feelings hurt along the way. But all those things and accomplishments I have hanging on my wall, 6 world championships starting when I was 11 years old, is great. But I needed advice. I needed the help. My son, obviously my advice goes far with my teaching and my training. My son's about to be 10 years old, and he has 10 world championships. I've got my work cut out for me because I want to pass that. He's got 7 with APHA and 3 with the National Little Britches, plus 2 all around of the finals awards to go with that. So my teaching doesn't just stop with myself and my horses. My teaching has obviously spread to others, and that's not a boast to my ego or to brag. It's just that I've done all these things and won these things, and I still needed help. I needed advice. I needed someone to break it back down and be real with me about what I was doing or what I was not doing. So, ask for advice. I did watch a Fallon Taylor podcast, and she said, ask advice or opinions of those you would want to trade places with. Let that stick for a minute. She's pretty right. If you wouldn't trade places in your life with that person, then their opinion or advice to you is probably not the one that you need. I've learned in this life the best jump jockeys aren't the best trainers. Some of the best trainers aren't the best jump jockeys. So find someone local in your area reach out, ask for advice. This is not a promo for Magnolia Farm, but it is what I do for a living. It's how I've supported myself and my family. I've been very fortunate in that aspect. But and if you ask someone for advice, don't make an excuse as to why it won't work. Take their advice, try it. This game that we're in, Gage was very successful. My son was very successful in the National Little Britches the last 2 years with barrels, poles, flag race, that sort of thing, all of his events. Nobody gave him advice. Well, now we've transferred over into roping and goat tying, and he's not as successful yet. And everyone wants to give him advice. He'll come back to the trailer after his event, and he'll say, well, so-and-so told me this, or so-and-so's mom or dad said this. And I always tell him, take their advice, nod and smile type thing. And I said, then come tell me, or come tell your dad. We'll take it into consideration, and if it may work for you or it may not. So not everyone always has your best interest in mind, and sometimes your advice or their advice just may not work for you. People see that you're down or you're out or you're losing, and they always want to give you advice, but they don't seem to want to give you advice when you're winning. But to me, even when you win, you could have always done something better. It could have always been a little better. So I think people get confused with, as long as you're winning, you don't need help, right? No. What do you think the top 15 in the world headed to the NFR? What do you think those ladies are doing until December? They're tuning, they're training, they're resting. They're doing all those things to be at the top of their game, even more so than they are already this year, when they get to that NFR in December. So just because you're at the top of your game, or if you're at the very bottom, always do the best you can. Ask for help, ask for advice. Take 30 minutes to an hour out of your week. Go train with someone. Let them watch you. You may not like it. You may not get along with that person. That's fine. You have to find someone that also fits your personality. So, but don't be afraid. Ask for that help. Ask them to take 30 minutes out of their time. Yes, it's probably their job. You're going to have to pay for it. But I promise you, for that hour, it will be the best 30 to 50 bucks you've ever spent. Because my husband gave me free advice, only because we're married. But it has motivated me this week to get up earlier. I've rode before it's gotten hot. I rode in the dark. It's motivated me. I feel so much better about my abilities. I'm not doubting myself. I can still do this. I can still train. I sent him a video this morning of one of my 4-year-olds that's never loped the barrels before. We kind of loped the barrels this morning. He put back, you can still train. So, do yourself a favor. Spend the $30 or $50. If you don't think you have the money, don't go to the barrel race this weekend. Take a lesson. You don't have to attend every barrel race there is. There's one every day of the week, most of the time. Do what it takes. Do the small things and get yourself in a better place mentally and physically. I promise it'll make your day.